Broadcasting to you live from the Orion Spiral Arm of the Milky Way Galaxy, the solar system, planet Earth, North America, the United States of America. As you know it now, before we purchase Greenland and Panama and
Canada, become 53, 57 states. I don't know what it is, but something bigger.
You know what? Oh my God, you know what's going to happen, Mike. The Big Ten is the United States is going to turn into the Big Ten.
Yeah,
they're just going to absorb everything into one mega conference.
You know, I did hear in the NASARA protocol. I heard in the NASARA protocols in 2015 that the U.S., Canada, England, New Zealand, and Australia were going to become a Commonwealth headed and owned by the United States. And I guess we can throw Greenland into that too, and maybe Iceland at some point. Yes, I've heard these things.
What protocols were those? What was that event?
The NASARA protocols, National Economic Security and Reformation Act, or Global Economic Security and Reformation Act. So, yeah.
That's kind of similar to what was that Five Eyes, the one that Obama and Hillary were using to spy on Trump? That's New Zealand, England, the United States.
Yeah.
There were like a lot of those overlap as the same countries. Just got me thinking.
All right, let me actually find our show here and get it out to my followers on Telegram, and then we can begin.
Yeah, that sounds good. Let me tell everybody about everything. This is Strictly Football. My name's Brian Engelman. That's Mike Bara. I always do sports shows for the Unhappy Hour. I also do Strictly Buckeyes, Strictly Browns, Strictly Cavaliers, Strictly Guardians. But they're all under the umbrella of the Unhappy Hour sports show. So we started Strictly Football. It's not really a hometown favorite team of mine based show. It's the sport that I love. It's an umbrella for the sport that I love called football. It teaches so many incredible lessons. Kids are leaving the sport in droves these days. I talked to my high school coach who took over a program that used to go to state championships. And I guess they're having a hard time recruiting.
That's because moms are making decisions instead of that. Oh, you might get hurt. Yeah, you might get hurt riding your bike. Then we gave you helmets. Now they want to play flag football. Screw that. Make your kids play tackle football. It'll make a man out of your boy.
And I'll tell you, my mom would not let me play. And for year after year, I was like, I want to play. And she just refused. And in 8th grade, I came home. I said, hey, look, I saved up my allowance money and I saved up my birthday money.
Yeah.
I went to the mall and I bought myself a pair of cleats. I'm playing football this year in 8th grade. And I went and played. I had to decide for me that was right for me. 8th grade is when I became a man.
Yeah, and you're a big guy. You should have. You probably wasted some good years because there's so many cool memories. Like I remember the touchdown I scored, and I was a tight end, right? But they had me split wide, and I kept doing this down and out thing, and the guy, we were the second team guy. The first team guy came up and he finally jumped on it and picked one, right, and ran it back. I don't think he got a pick six, but he got an interception. Next time, same thing. We would set it up. It wasn't every down I ran this pattern, but I went down and out and down, and he jumped on the down and out pump fake, and I was like, it's those memories when you make a perfect play. That live with you, and you deserve the chance to have those memories. It's really not fair that moms who don't know or understand the importance of football should not be allowed to interfere in that. Merry Christmas. Hi, Victoria. And sorry, we don't have any picks from Jim today because, Brian, we pulled this thing together just late last night. We just decided we were going to get up and do it because of your schedule, my schedule, the holidays, all the early games. We just realized we had to do it now. So we're not going to have anything from Jim, but we may reserve the right to do a quick update with Jim's betting tips on Thursday.
And also, Mike, tell them about our X account, our new X account for this show. And then we'll try to link it back to the Mike Bara, to the New American Media, the Unhappy Hour, and send the show out there.
We are streaming to that X account, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right. So restream that. Yeah. What's your favorite memory of when you played a game of football? Well, that was it. The down and out and down. The old Steve Largent thing. Steve Largent used to do that. This is in the 70s before we even had a team. I think I was 12 years old or something. But
nice. Yeah, I probably have 5 favorite memories. I could throw any number of
Fumble when you're on the in the newspaper holding the football. That's a good one, right? You got that back there?
Yeah, it's up on the wall. I'll bring it over in a sec if you want. But I would say practice. I was in a game of practice football, maybe 9th grade. I was trying to make a name for myself, coming off a 1-7 team or whatever we were. We sucked. Right? We got one win, and we were in practice. And this was before quarterbacks were, they wore all red and you couldn't touch them. You were just playing a game of football.
Right.
And I came off the right side at right defensive end. I got through, and the quarterback was standing there getting ready to throw it. And when I hit him, he did one of these. He bent in the middle of his back because I blasted him.
The sound. It's the sound when you hit the guy that makes
it was all the noises. And I'll tell you what, I made a name for myself on that play. I'll take it because that was a day and age when you were actually hitting the quarterback. Now it's like you can't land on them. You can't lead with your helmet. You can't hit them.
Below the knee. You can't touch them above the knee. You can touch them like here, but not the ribs because that might actually hurt him. It's bullshit. It's bullshit. Yeah, but it's that sound when the air leaves their lungs and you really got him good. Best block I ever saw like that was Golden Tate on God, who was it? Sam Lee or somebody like that on the Cowboys. I'll look for that replay and maybe send it to you. But the perfect blindside hit is awesome. So
it's a thing of beauty to be sure. It's
like
something that is gone.
When you're playing golf or tennis and you hit it absolutely perfect. Dead solid perfect.
Oh yeah, there's nothing quite like when it resonates off the racket and it's there. Maybe the ping of a softball bat, ping, or the crunch of a home run swing.
Oh man,
perfect drive. Oh geez, yeah. Okay, so question of the day: what is your favorite memory of when you played a game of football?
We just talked about it. We just talked about it.
Not for you. I'm talking to the guests. I'm talking to the viewers, rather, the viewers that jump into the program.
The huge viewing audience we have at 8:30 in the morning on Christmas Eve.
Hey, you know what? But these shows live online. Make sure you're following Strictly Football on Rumble. YouTube.
Put it in the comments. Put your favorite football memory in the comments.
Absolutely. All right, Mike, let's jump into the action from last week. We're just going to kind of turn and burn. Before we do, let me just ask about college football because that's something I'm legitimately interested in. NFL for me is sort of toast with my Cleveland Browns being god awful.
No, it's not. And I'll tell you that why in a second, but let's go to this first. And then I'm going to tell you why your Cleveland Browns are so extremely relevant.
Okay. All right. Well, don't let me forget that. Obviously I'm a Buckeye fan, so I can say that Buckeye game, I had a few takeaways. I thought the first drive was very interesting. Coach Ryan Day had to call a timeout. I think it was too loud in the stadium, and there were several people from the other team there. And I'm kind of curious how they allocate the tickets. What's the ticket distribution for these college events? I would really like to look that up if I can remember to. But the Buckeye game, it could have been 28-0, but on an obvious pass interference play. I mean, Jeremiah Smith, his first year on the Buckeyes, he looks like he should be the number one receiver on your favorite football team in the NFL.
Yeah.
Nobody can stop him. In Michigan, all the defenders could do was put their arms around him, but there was an interception on a pass where the defender wasn't looking and he was completely wrapping up Smith. So instead of 28-0, it ended up being 21-3, and it just totally changed the energy of the middle part of the game. But but by the end, the Buckeyes just absolutely dominated. They won the game 42-17. Did you have any thoughts on that game? And then we'll just kind of talk about the tournament in general.
That game, I was out at the Kraken. I believe I was out at the Kraken hockey game, Kraken Golden Knights hockey game down here at T-Mobile Arena in Vegas. I saw very little of that game, so I can't really comment on it other than 42-17 is about what I expected Ohio State to win by. So here we are. Good for them.
So anything else about the college football playoffs?
Well, just again, the matchups are not good. They need to redo the seeding. They need to do a seeding process rather than give Boise State and Arizona State, automatic bursts into the second round. They need to do sort of a ranking system, and we need to have the weaker teams playing each other in the first round because that'll be more competitive games. Having Penn State and Texas playing it, just Notre Dame's game against Indiana, they were complete dominance, and it just wasn't fun to watch. So I think they should fix that next year. I think they probably will. And then we'll get better. We'll get more entertaining games in the first round. Let's put it that way. So
well, then quick thoughts. Georgia playing Notre Dame. Any thoughts there with their quarterback being out with the elbow injury now?
I think you got to favor Notre Dame with Beck out of there, or Carson Beck. Yeah. With him out of there, I think you got to favor Notre Dame. That's clearly a move he's making for the NFL draft. I don't think he wants to fall below the second or third round. So he's going to have the surgery. Probably could have played with it. I think he figures Georgia's not really a national championship team, and he's not going to be there next year anyway. So that's what I would have done. Got to say, that's what I would have done. Texas, Arizona State's going to be a closer game than people think. Arizona State is a good football team. Penn State, Boise State. I don't understand why the number 1 seed, Oregon, is playing Ohio State. Oregon and Ohio State is a game that should be reserved for the semifinal or the final. And it's just stupid to have this game in the second round. Oregon should probably be playing Boise State, who is probably the teams.
I'm sorry, say that last part.
Oregon should be playing Boise State, who's probably the weakest of the remaining teams.
Okay, so then how do you propose, because you're saying maybe the way it's set up with Boise State and Arizona State getting buys, I think number 1, 2, 3, 4 should get buys, or do you think maybe they should reseed it every round, or should it just be, I don't know, how does it get better?
What I would do is I would give each team a rank. Okay, what are there? 12 teams, 1 through 12, and the number 1 team always plays the lowest ranked remaining team, and the bad teams, the teams, the 4 play-in games are the bottom 8. They're the bottom 8 teams. They're not the top 4 teams. I mean, Arizona State would not have been in there. Boise State would not have been there. They would have been playing. Indiana versus Boise State would have probably been a much more entertaining game than Notre Dame versus Boise State. That's what I'm saying. So, or Notre Dame versus Indiana. So let's reseed it with a little common sense, with the idea towards the television spectacle. That's the change I would make at this point. So, gotcha. What's the 4th game there at the bottom? What's the 4th game at the bottom? It's
well, that was Georgia, Notre Dame. Yeah. But the interesting thing here as well, I mean, Oregon, they missed out on having a home game. Having home games are fun. Obviously, you want to advance. You'll take a bye any way you can get it, but Oregon doesn't get a home game. They're going to the Rose Bowl. I've been to the Rose Bowl. I've been to the Rose Bowl in Pasadena. What was it, 10, 12 years ago? At this game, Ohio State versus Oregon, the final Jim Tressel game, it was Terrell Pryor playing in that game. The Ohio State got the win. I mean, that place is going to be completely packed with Buckeyes fans again, and Oregon doesn't get a home field advantage.
The Rose Bowl is big. It's really big. It's
and the backdrop is incredible.
There.
The backdrop,
people there. Yeah, it's big.
One of the coolest things ever.
I missed out on my free French fries at McDonald's front because the freaking Golden Knights scored 2 goals in the first period, and I was supposed to get free French fries yesterday, and I just messed up.
Well, hey, you know what? Make French fries great again. I heard they're going to move to beef tallow with RFK making that push. Back when French fries used to be good for you.
Make McDonald's French fries great again. All right.
I mean, could you imagine in America where McDonald's is good for you? Could you imagine actually changing course and putting America back on track?
There's a guy that I know is a school teacher. He went on a 2,000 calorie a day all McDonald's diet and lost 25 pounds, and every single bit of blood work went better. What? So, yeah. They put him on a 2,000 calorie a day diet. His students picked out his menu. He ate only from McDonald's 3 or 4 times a day and had everything on the menu at least once, and lost 25 or 30 pounds, and all of his blood work got better. So this crap that McDonald's is poison is nonsense. It's eating too many calories. By the way, I got suckered in by my doctor yesterday, Dr. Deepa. She's an Indian woman I don't know, Brian, it's not good to have a doctor you're attracted to because she's really attractive. She talked me. She can talk me into almost anything. She talked me into going down to. My New Year's resolution is I'm going to get down to one of these a day, and not even these 8-ounces. I'm getting down to the 6-ounce cans.
Okay, I got one. How about this?
Okay, this is 12 ounces. So I'm going down to the 8-ounce can. One a day. That's my promise. She thinks it will drastically improve my health. So.
Well, any reduction in that stuff, the high fructose corn syrup and the seed oils, I think that's going to be good for anybody.
She was really mean to me and picked on me and made me agree to it. She did.
X Crash Out X Sosa is saying supersize me. Yeah, that was Morgan Spurlock. That was a whole documentary about.
Yeah, that's just almost everything in that film turned out to not be true. So.
Hey, Mike, Crash Out is saying, riz her up.
Riz her up, yeah. Well, she's married with a child, but that doesn't mean she's not still attractive.
Well, tell people about the show you do on Wednesdays if people want some advice.
Okay, well, yes, I do Wisdom on Wednesdays. There's also, of course, Tell the Truth Wednesday with Mike and Jen, which is all about the financial situation, the political situation, the upheaval that the whole world is going through, which hopefully this is like the birth. Like we got our head just out and we're just about ready to push the rest of the way.
Like Ace Ventura emerging from a rhino or something?
Yeah. Hopefully that's the case soon. But then we have Whiskey and Wisdom on Wednesday nights, which I do with the original Mark Z, my friend from Puerto Rico, North Carolina, and his son Zester. And it's a very entertaining show, which includes Mike Bara's bad dating advice. So if you want dating advice, talk to Mike Bara. And I'm going to let you guys know Mike Bara may have some significant and good dating advice coming up soon, maybe in January. Watch for that. We'll see.
All right. Eyes peeled on that. Once again, question of the day. What is your favorite memory of when you played a football game? Type it in the chat. We want to put it into the show and read it together. All right, Mike, let's tear through the games last week, and I'm looking forward to your updates. So you make sure. Oh, you were going to tell me about the Browns. Let's just talk about the Browns and tell me why we're significant. Browns lose 24-6. And it really screwed up my fantasy football league because I put Jerry Jeudy in based on how he's been performing. But the Browns took Jameis Winston out because he throws for 500 yards a game and put in Dorian Thompson-Robinson, a guy that Andrew Berry, general manager, drafted in the 4th or 5th round or something out of UCLA, has had him under their tutelage for a couple of years. Kevin Stefanski, the quarterback whisperer, they bring out Dorian Thompson-Robinson, and he crapped the bed. He looked awful. And this is the regime that our owner, Jimmy Haslam, has to decide. Are Barry and Stefanski coming back to lead this franchise or not? And Myles Garrett is saying, guys, if I don't have a plan to compete deep into the playoffs, I'm out. So, like, everything's falling apart in Berea. That's where the training camp is and where they're headquartered. So, Mike, take it away, man. I've lost my shits to give about my Cleveland Browns, man. Like, I've been through this rebuild before, and I'm so sick of it.
If he's really that bad, please start him the next 2 games because the Cleveland Browns have a major influence over whether or not the Seattle Seahawks can make the playoffs. The NFL has a series of tiebreakers. They have division record. They have head-to-head. They have strength of schedule. And then way down below that, they have strength of victory. So, on the strength of schedule, strength of victory thing, the Rams have that locked up. So if the Seahawks and the Rams tie at 9-8, let's say the Seahawks win this week on Thursday night, and the Rams beat the Cardinals on Saturday, the Rams would clinch the division unless the Cleveland Browns finish with 3.5 wins or less. Right now, they're on 3. So the Cleveland Browns need to lose their last 2 games, in which case the Rams do not necessarily take the strength of schedule and then the very last game between the Rams and the Seahawks, which would probably be on Sunday night in LA, which I would be going to because I already have the tickets, would decide the NFC West and a playoff spot. So we need help from your Cleveland Browns to continue to lose their last two games. If the Browns win, the Rams are in and the Seahawks are out no matter what happens. I think. No. If the Rams lost to the Cardinals, which is highly unlikely, if the Rams lost to the Cardinals, then the Seahawks would have a chance, but it's like that thin. So anyway.
Well, let me look at this component as well. You're looking at it from how can you win your NFC West division and tiebreakers and such. In Cleveland, we're going, well, how close are we to the number one pick? Unfortunately, we're among several teams with 3 wins, and based on the matchups and the tiebreakers, it looks like it has us drafting, was that 2, 4, 6 overall, 6 overall. And you look at the teams ahead and say, who's looking for a quarterback? So let me just ask you real quick, Mike, are the Jaguars looking for a quarterback? It's debatable.
It's debatable. We know the Giants are. We know the Raiders are. The Titans and the Jags could theoretically be looking for a quarterback and be willing to trade them. But it depends. It depends on how the quarterbacks get evaluated. Yeah. Are the Jaguars going to take Jason Milroe at 5? Gosh, I don't think so. Not the way he's evaluated right now. So then it becomes, I don't know. Honestly, don't know.
And you got the Patriots as well. Is Drake May the answer? I mean,
the only team in front of you that's not looking for a quarterback is going to be New England because they do like Drake May, and they should. He's a good player. So,
right. All right. Well, that's why it's relevant in that regard. What happens to the Browns? But yeah, this is a completely lost season, and it's very frustrating for me to try to go through this. But luckily now, this time of year, I get to talk football. Just in general, unfortunately, Mike, both of my teams, my fantasy dynasty teams, got eliminated. I had a couple of lousy performances. My defense really killed me, and I went up against defenses that put up 24 points and 21 points. If you have a couple subpar performances or some injuries, Jalen Hurts got injured for me. I put 4 points on the board instead of 30.
You're getting butt hurt in the head-to-head competition between you and me on the show too. So you got a lot of butt hurt going on there, buddy.
Yeah, I know. Well, look, I was above 500 this week with our tracker. Just here's a little preview. I was 9-7. So I'm 121 and 119 on the year. So I'm above water.
Your head is above water by about that much. There you go. You're good.
I missed it by that much. Exactly. I'm real close. But let's talk about the games that are in the books. Chargers beat the Broncos. Look, that I didn't have that as a particularly relevant game on my schedule circled when the season started, but here we are. Their records are what they say they are. So what did we learn in this game?
Well, I think Broncos would have been in the playoffs if they'd won. They dominated the early part of the game. I'm like, wow, I picked the Chargers. I think I should have picked the Broncos because Chargers looked tired. Broncos looked very aggressive. But then the Broncos train just ran out of gas, man. It ran out of steam, and it slowed down in the third and fourth quarters. I don't know if that's a function of schedules and injuries or whatever, but their offense ground to a halt. And the Chargers came back and won the game because Jim Harbaugh's teams are tough. They're tough. They don't give up. And Justin Herbert made some plays, and that touchdown throw, moving to his left, throwing back against his body with accuracy about 35 yards downfield. That's one of the better throws you're going to see this year, and nobody gives him credit for that. And yeah, Herbert turns the ball over, makes mistakes, but that throw impressed me. There's not that many guys in this league that can make that throw with that level of perfection and accuracy. And Russell Wilson is one of them, as Patrick Mahomes is one of them. Although I've never really seen Mahomes honestly make a great throw running to his left like that. That's one of the things I think is a bit of a weakness in his game. But some impressive quarterback play. Bo Nix didn't have a great day statistically, but I thought led his team very well, ran his offense efficiently. And again, for people like Seahawk blogger Rob Staten who want to criticize me, I told you Bo Nix was a first-round pick, and you can hem and haw all you want, buddy. And I was right and you were wrong. So stick that one in your British pipe.
Put in your British pipe. The day before, yeah.
So yeah, good game, good entertaining game, right? Entertaining game.
It was one of the more entertaining games of the year. I think you and I were texting, and it was like, oh, looks like you were right, picking the Broncos.
Yeah,
And what did I say? I said, there's plenty of game left.
Flipped, and it really flipped in the second half, especially. It was just one of those things where it's funny because normally you would see a pattern like that if they were playing at Mile High, where the visiting team can't get oxygen in the second half because they're and blows it in the fourth quarter. I've seen tons of games like that at Mile High, but it was exactly the opposite script down at sea level, and the Chargers came back and got the win, which they needed. So.
Yes, Larry Fletcher, Merry Christmas to you as well. Thanks for tuning in. We have a question of the day. What is your favorite memory of when you played a game of football? Type it in the comments. What's your favorite memory when you were holding a football or playing on a football field?
By that we preferably mean, with pads and a helmet and an organized, and that's what we're talking about.
But you know what? If someone doesn't have that experience, I want to hear about the back, because I played so many backyard football games. That's what got me into pads.
You're a guy and you didn't play organized football with the pads on. You're a pussy and you don't get to talk about football. And I'm talking to you, Seahawks Brandon Nelson, because I know you never played. Anyway, sorry.
Brandon Nelson has been put on blast.
There's some guys out there in Seahawks Twitterverse I just want to razz a little bit. Nothing.
Make sure you tag him and say at 26:31 in the show. We give you a shout out. Phil Johnson chiming in saying, Mike, Chicago Bears fan all my life. This year's team, which was supposed to be a playoff team, really sucks. We play the Seahawks on Thursday. We need a new head coach. Any suggestions? So how about this? Let's pivot to the Bears. I'll pull up that game. We'll talk about what we saw and maybe answer some of these questions. What would you do if you're the GM of the Bears, Mike Bara?
Well, I mean, everybody says Dan Campbell, who's the offensive coordinator for the Lions, and he is smart. The Seahawks wanted him. He would not go there. Why? Because Geno Smith is the quarterback. Here, he gets Caleb Williams. So I think Dan Campbell's going to go somewhere as a head coach where they can get a quarterback. If the Raiders were to have had the number one pick at Shadur Sanders, he might have gone there. The Giants, will he go there? Wow. I don't know. I don't know that he would go to the Giants. The Giants are such a mess. But look, the Bears are not that far away. Caleb Williams has pretty good stats. The thing is, you guys weren't a playoff team. You had too many young players at key positions. You had a rookie quarterback. You probably weren't a playoff team. And Caleb Williams is not Russell Wilson, so he's not taking you to the playoffs in his rookie year. And he has a lot to learn. And, Shane Waldron was the offensive coordinator who was Geno Smith's offensive coordinator for several years and just isn't really very good. So you had a lot. The problem is that when you got the new quarterback, you should have got a new coach then. But Campbell is the guy that people are talking about. If not him, I don't know who out there offensively would be a good offensive coach, but you got to get somebody in there who's going to grow and finish Caleb Williams, because that's definitely your future. Even though, he has personal issues like wearing lipstick and having pink nails. But other than that, physically, he can do the job. And the thing about him, Brian, that I found kind of impressive is he's played more heady. He's played smarter than I expected him to. I expected him to be a Cam Newton who could do everything physically, but was dumb as a post.
Well, by the way, just as a quick sidebar, let's not forget Joe Willie Namath wearing the feathered boa, and Dennis Rodman marrying himself. There have been weird players who definitely err on the side of the flamboyant. Definitely the Odell Beckhams of the universe, and even Baker Mayfield changing his beard and mustache. He shaved a beard and shaved his mustache at halftime.
Little flamboyant. Yeah, a little flamboyant.
People are interesting. But, I think the Bears did everything they could to help me in the fantasy football playoffs with Keenan Allen. They were smart enough to go get him. He's underrated. They do have weapons on that team, and even Roshan Johnson is the backup running back. But I think they had 56 yards rushing. You have to give the guy a little bit more. That's a designed offensive scheme and offensive line. You have to have a running game to help the quarterback play. They've got tons of weapons, but the running game and the blocking to give them a little bit more time and a little bit more balance. That's what they need.
I mean, you had a situation where Romo Dunze, who's a good player and is going to be a good receiver in his league, he had 2 turnovers. He fumbled the ball twice. So that
sounds like the Baker Mayfield story against the Cowboys.
But look, focus. They got to focus on the offensive line, and you're right. An elite running back would make a big difference for the Bears. So go get those 2 things.
I don't know. I think Roshan Johnson. I think their backfield has talent. I think they need some line, and they do need a new coach with a new scheme.
Doesn't every team need offensive linemen? I mean, it's pretty bad.
That's a fair point. Let me go to the Buccaneers game because I mentioned it. I don't know if you watched this one, but it was a 2-point victory for Dallas. 2 balls that Baker put into the hands of his receivers were taken away for a possession change. Sometimes people say, oh, there was a turnover and there was a take away. I like to just kind of say, when you fumble something, you turn it over. When someone earns it, they have taken it from you. And my God, the Dallas Cowboys coaching, they went out and took 2 balls away. And in Cleveland Browns football universe, it's a nonstop Baker either bashing or Baker bro. You're either Baker bro or a Baker basher. And so all the bashers came out. See, this is why the Browns shouldn't have signed him. This is why he wasn't worth $60 million a year. He leads the league in fumbles. He can't take you anywhere. He's never going to be good enough to win a Super Bowl. See? And I'm like, I didn't see that. I saw a guy that had command of the offense, and he's dynamic, and he can turn the ball over some. But he can take you on a drive 98 yards with no timeouts. We saw him do that on the Rams. So I don't know. What did you make of this game in general and specifics?
Cowboys wanted it more. And I got the odd feeling, the bizarre feeling that the thing we thought would never happen is that Mike McCarthy is going to be back. I think Mike McCarthy's coming back. I don't think they're going to fire him. Jerry doesn't fire his coaches at the drop of a hat. He keeps them. Sometimes longer than he should, but I got a feeling McCarthy's going to come back because Cowboys played really hard. They played like they wanted it more than Tampa did, which is bad because I love Todd Bowles as a coach. I'm not sure he's a head coach, but he's a really good coach. And I'm surprised that Tampa got caught with their pants down. They were careless with the football. And that's got to go back on the coach. Not really emphasizing it enough. So,
I would say one of those interceptions, Baker threw it 40, 50 yards to Jalen McMillan, making a great catch. By the way, broken tubing saying Dan Campbell's staying the Lions head coach. We know. Of course, Dan Campbell's going nowhere, but in a hypothetical world, Mike is saying who would
the coordinator, the assistant, what's his name? Not Dan Campbell. What's the offensive coordinator's name? He's got a basic name like that, like Dan Campbell. Well, I'll look it up.
That's Ben Johnson. There we go.
Ben Johnson. Sorry, I meant Ben Johnson. I said Dan Campbell. Please. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, we'll talk about the Bengals next. How about one of these touchdowns, Jalen McMillan. Baker put it perfectly. The guy was beat, and it kind of went into to McMillan's hands and his hands at the same time. And it was just like, holy crap. He pinpointed almost the perfect spot to throw a great touchdown. It turned into an interception.
It was a great throw. McMillan didn't hang on to it, and that is the blame on that one. It's not on Baker.
At the end of the game, Baker was getting sacked, and he pitched it to the running back who went over and had it promptly ripped from his arms. It's like, see, Baker, look, turnovers. I'm like, turnovers what? So, Baker's unfairly judged, in my opinion, as a Browns fan.
I agree. Although you have to look at all the turnovers and say there's part of it is Baker's fault. We've seen him make some really bad Geno Smith-esque throws this year in the red zone. He's got to stop that. The thing about Baker is he still can improve. He's got the veteran skills. And good God, if you ask me, would I rather have Baker or Geno? I'm taking Baker all day long.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, I would say the same Dorian Thompson-Robinson, Jameis Winston, Deshaun Watson. I mean, Deshaun Watson is now a punchline. That's how bad it is. So yeah, I'll take Baker back in a heartbeat.
Twitter is now making Photoshop AI Photoshops of Deshaun Watson in a Seahawks uniform. You know that, right?
Let's have your people talk to my people. Let's set this up.
Yeah.
No. Look, I don't know what's wrong with Deshaun Watson, but like his brain is broken, his confidence is broken, his swagger's broken. Remember when Tiger Woods couldn't lose a game, couldn't lose a match? He was winning everything, but when he started having personal problems, man, the mojo was gone. And then there were health issues and back injuries and just completely derailed. So like he lost his mojo.
Sean's not going to succeed in Cleveland. We know that. Yeah.
I guess if somebody wants to come in and run the same system they ran in Houston, there's a possibility if he can be that same person. But now he has an Achilles injury. He's had knee injuries. He's had shoulder injuries. You know, father time catches everybody. Let's talk about this game here. This one wasn't father time. This was just, unfortunately, the football gods were not smiling down on Tank Dell. Tank Dell was having a fantastic day. I, of course, did not have him in my starting lineup when he put up 20-some points, and he would have been very helpful for me. But as of late, I haven't been able to trust him. He was a fantastic fantasy football performer last year until his injury, and now he suffered a gruesome injury in this game, and the Chiefs improved to 14-1 somehow. Texans slipped to 9-6. Mike, what did we learn?
Chiefs are more like a 10-4 team than they are a 14-1 team, but the refs give them a lot of help, as they did again last week on a few calls. I was watching this game. I saw the Houston defense make at least 3 big significant plays, every one of which was called back on a defensive penalty. We know what's going on there. It was not an entertaining game. It was a good game. It was a competitive game. Houston's not as good as Kansas City, especially if Kansas City's going to get help, which they did from those Zebras. But the big story again is Tank Dell. And so look, let's face it, Houston's not going anywhere this year. They're going to get bounced out in the first or second round of the playoffs. They're not good enough. CJ Stroud, I love him. I wish he was my quarterback with my Seahawks, but he's just not quite good enough. This year, he's having an off year, and the injuries are part of it. And Tank Dell, a terrific player when healthy, 2 years in a row, fairly catastrophic injuries. So, I think their priority in the offseason's got to be getting another threat with the ball in his hands. So,
let me ask this, though. Like, being a team that was able to be that dynamic, obviously injuries will change the scope of your roster, but it shouldn't change the overall strategy and identity of your team if you have similar players that you plug and play. Now, maybe that's not the case, but winning a championship is just about getting hot at the right time. Are you just saying because of the injuries, there's no way this team can get hot? Right. They're limping into the playoffs barely.
Getting hot and injuries are the key thing in the last part of the game. And the injuries are killing them, so they're not going to go. It's not going to be them this year.
Well, and that's if they can hold off. They're only 2 games up on the Colts. We're at the end of the season, but it's just something to keep an eye on as teams back away from the season and kind of move forward toward the playoffs with something to play for. All right, let's switch to this one. These are 2 teams that have something to play for. Now they're tied in the AFC North at 10-5. The Ravens double up the Steelers 34-17. I did pick this one. It went against all of the betting information that all the statistical data were maybe suggesting potentially Pittsburgh would have been the play here. But the eye test told me that they're a superior team in Baltimore, and they doubled them up this time, Mike.
Well, without George Pickens, they're a superior team. And when you don't have your best weapon, you're not going to score enough points. They only got 17 points. Having said that, Russ had 2 unnecessary turnovers. We got to blame Russ for that. The fumble, he's trying to make those extra yards. Russ, you're 5'9", man. Just go down to the ground, keep your team in field goal range. So that was 3 points they could have had. and then they're driving, and he just made a really bad, too quick judgment to try to get rid of the ball, and made a bad throw for a pick six, and so that hurt them. I still have all the faith in the world in Russell Wilson, but that hurt him. But they didn't have a chance coming in because they didn't have Pickens. He's gone now 3 weeks, and they've lost at least 2 of those games. They get him back this week. I'm going to presume and assume that they're going to do better this week, because anytime you take a team's best player off the field, their chances of winning against a good team like the Ravens are low. So let's see. I would be really interested to see these two teams play in a playoff game in Pittsburgh with George Pickens healthy. I don't think there would be that much difference between the two of them. I think they're both good football teams with a lot of good players. And, Lamar versus Russ, I'll sign up for that entertainment any day of the week.
Right. I would say in my fantasy football underperformers of the week, this crucial playoff week, Najee Harris really didn't deliver much of anything for me. I needed something out of that running back position, and he failed to deliver. Yeah. And it was one of the several things that doomed me. Talking about Lamar Jackson, how close are you to deciding the NFL MVP? We've seen some ups and downs from players. We've seen some great seasons. You got Saquon in the mix, probably Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. You probably have Josh Allen. I don't know who else, but are you is your MVP settled, or are you still kind of willing to bounce somebody up to the top?
It's weird because you look at Lamar's numbers and they're astronomically good, but I just don't feel like he's had that great a season. I think he's feasted on a lot of weak teams. I don't feel like I'm that impressed with him. I'm much more impressed with Josh Allen and him having to carry the Bills a lot more, and Saquon. Those are my top 2 guys, and Lamar's right there. Derrick Henry, I don't think he's MVP category, but it's like I also, it's weird. It's just time
Derrick
for
Henry's earned some votes. I don't know if it's number one.
Lamar, in my opinion, won the MVP once or twice. He's won it twice. At least one of those times, he should not have won it. And so now it's like, now that he's having an MVP worthy season, I don't want to give it to him. I want to give it to Josh Allen or Saquon, because I think they've had more of an impact on the outcome of this season and the story of this season than Lamar has. So, if you ask me, okay, Mike, you can have any quarterback in the NFL for your Seahawks quarterback for next season. Who do you want? Josh Allen. Not even hesitating. Josh Allen over Lamar. So if I had to vote, that's how I'd vote. What about you?
If I had to vote for MVP, or if I had to have a quarterback?
For MVP, yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'll get to the Eagles, because Jalen Hurts was the other one that hurts my team. My God, give me 4 points. And, obviously he's injured. That's a serious thing, not a fantasy football thing, but, and then they're down to their backup quarterback. So I'm thinking about the Eagles. We'll talk about them. And Saquon, Saquon's been fantastic, but, part of it is, can you ride the wave of a fantastic team? Can you ride a wave of the best team in the AFC, the best team or the second best team in the NFC, or the biggest improvement from team to team?
Mm-hmm.
I think Derrick Henry should get some votes. I think Saquon should get some votes. The Bills, Josh Allen, he's probably the favorite. Lamar's got to be there. I think they definitely get MVP voter fatigue. I saw that with LeBron James. I mean, they'd give it to every player but him when he was clearly the best player 4, 5, 6, 7 seasons. They give it, spreading it around like lifetime achievement awards. So I would probably say maybe Josh Allen. And if I had to start a franchise with a new quarterback, because the Cleveland Browns do need to start a franchise with a new quarterback. You can't argue Josh Allen. And I just don't like the running style of Lamar Jackson.
Lamar's going to get hurt more. I think he's going to continue to get more injuries as years go.
Allen runs plenty. He runs probably. Does he run the same amount? Less? Close to it? Lamar is miles behind. I mean, they both like to run, but it is the game of football. So
It's just that Josh Allen's so much bigger and more physical. And
you expect that they can absorb the hits a little.
Lamar's kind of slight. And I think, look, Lamar's had a couple small injuries. He's going to get a significant lower leg injury. And then the Lamar running back show is going to be over. And fortunately, he's really developed as a passer. So that, I won't hurt him as much as he used to.
I've seen him make some really nice passes, whereas I didn't used to think of him as much of a passer.
Well, there was a NFL quarterback competition about 3 or 4 years ago, 2020, 2021, that they put on an NFL network, and they had all these moving targets you had to hit, and Lamar couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. And Russ goes out there and bam, 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 bam. And I'm like,
I think that might be part of the Pro Bowl. They have an NFL skills challenge, and Baker Mayfield won that last year. It's like when people talk about Baker, it's like he has the tools. Yes, he's got to avoid plays that will allow a fumble, plays that will result in an interception. But he also makes incredible plays, and he has great arm talent. You watch those balls; they look like slingshots. Like they are just zipped out there like arrows. When he's really comfortable back there. But let's talk about Josh Allen a little bit. 12-3, the Bills improved to beating New England. New England had a nice chance there at the end, and man, we're unable to capitalize. What did we take away here?
Well, again, the Bills, had you just simply beaten the fucking Rams like you should have, I would have no problem with you. You play great every week except that week. They didn't play very good. They had a weak game. The Patriots were highly motivated to be competitive. They were. And I think the other reason the Bills kind of sucked is those stupid red uniforms and white helmets. And look, I'm just going to go back to it, Buffalo. Your best uniforms, your best unis are the blue pants, the blue jerseys, and the blue helmets. Okay, so go with those. That's your best look. When you look good, you play good. That's what you got to do. I don't have much to say about this game. The Bills were the better team. They gutted it out. They didn't get upset. They won the game. What can you say about it?
Well, we could bounce over here to another game. I mean, look, the Giants they had a brief lead in this game, but the clearly better team clearly got the win. And look, Baker lost with the Buccaneers, and now Atlanta's in first place in their division because of the tiebreakers at 8-7. Tampa Bay 8-7. What did we take away with the Falcons? Their new quarterback, Michael Penix Jr.
Yeah, I love Penix. I saw him play here at Allegiant Stadium last year in the Pac-12 championship game about a year ago. And the ball comes off his hands like you wouldn't believe. I mean, guy has a rocket launcher attached to his shoulder, and phenomenal throws, phenomenal technique. I didn't get much of a chance to watch this game. He didn't have much in the way of yardage, but obviously you play a contained offense and you didn't need it. You won 34-7. The Giants are absolutely awful terrible. And he didn't have a touchdown pass, but I think those will come for Penix. And, the Falcons are now back in the driver's seat. They control their own destiny. 2 games left. You can't ask for anything more than that. And good for him. Let's see. I think that the key thing to watch with them for the future is Michael Penix. And then the question becomes, where does Kirk Cousins end up next year? Because it's probably not going to be in Atlanta.
Yeah, and they were saying that Kirk Cousins is highly unlikely to do any favors for the Falcons. There's guaranteed money, and he's the way that they brought him in only to replace him. It's just like he would have went somewhere else if that was the plan. Like, just tell him that.
Yeah,
you don't know until the draft, and maybe you do pick the highest player available on the board, and that's just who happened to be there, and you don't pass on a franchise quarterback. I don't know.
I think they got Kirk Cousins in case they couldn't get a quarterback that they wanted in the draft, the Falcons, because I think what's changed in the NFL is that the premium placed on the quarterback position, and rightly so, is so much higher that you're going to see guys that are rated as second and third round picks going in the top half of the first round. Look, if there's a quarterback out there that has the potential to be a Super Bowl winner, that he looks like he's got the physical tools, they're not going to make it past 15 anymore. That's just not going to happen. So if you want a quarterback, and I'm talking to you, Seattle Seahawks, you got to go get one, and you got to overdraft him. That's just the reality of it. So
and I was looking. I like what I'm seeing from Will Howard. the Ohio State quarterback. And obviously some of that is a function of having incredible wide receivers at Wide Receiver University. Brian Hartline never disappoints to bring in a 5-star class of NFL-ready receivers. Emeka Ibuka and Jeremiah Smith are just men amongst boys. But, Will Howard, I've seen him play some decent ball. I've seen him play some less inspired ball. But he looks the part. He can make a lot of these throws. And I think they had him graded at like the 16th overall quarterback in this year's draft, going, all right, well, if you can lead us to a national championship, you could definitely improve your draft stock for damn sure. I don't know. Maybe you don't overdraft those 2 or 3 at the top, the Shadur Sanders and whatnot, unless you really believe in them. And maybe the Giants do. We'll see how it shakes out. But, I'm just kind of curious to if you can get a second or third round guy that has the tools, but maybe they haven't really developed everything yet, where the value is in overdrafting versus trying to develop someone.
Where's the last guy that went in the second or third round that's turned into a superstar Pro Bowl quarterback?
Yeah. All right. Tom Brady.
He went at the top of the second round, but he's not there in his development yet. He needs to really make some progress next year. So where are those guys? And so you got to go get them. You got to go get them high. And out of the last 25 Super Bowl winners, 21 of the Super Bowl winners were like elite quarterbacks drafted at least in the first round. And it doesn't happen. Tom Brady was elite. He was the 6th round pick. Russell Wilson's elite. He was the 3rd round pick. That's just not happening anymore. Brock Purdy is a rare exception. And the 49ers fans, they want to crucify Brock Purdy. Fine. You don't want him. I'll take him in Seattle.
Like the 49ers have a lot of problems. It's not a Purdy problem.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, let's talk about another team looking at quarterback. We thought maybe Tennessee was set at their quarterback position, but now they have Mason Rudolph in there throwing 3 interceptions. The Colts recently drafted Anthony Richardson. Obviously, he had his injury and missed all of last year. And 7-8 now, the Indianapolis Colts, they're clinging to some hope in the playoffs, and Tennessee's with 3 wins. Considering, do they go out and draft another quarterback, Mike?
They could. They absolutely could. In which case, if you want to send Will Levis to the Seahawks for further development, I'd be happy to take him on. Because the thing to remember, what I always tell people about Levis is the people who criticize him is I remind them that his stats, if you look at them, he's ahead or equal with Peyton Manning and Josh Allen in terms of his development. So again, to give up on a guy after just 2 years doesn't make any sense. And again, I don't know what the fuck the Tennessee Titans are doing, because why are you playing Mason Rudolph if Will Levis is healthy? You play him, you let him take his lumps, you see what happens. You're not going anywhere. You're a 3-win team. The best you're going to be is a 5-win team. You're picking in the top 10. Again, why don't you just put Will Levis out there? And because Will Levis has a chance to be better than Mason Rudolph. He's not going to get better sitting on the bench. So play him. And this is the thing where if I'm the owner of the Titans, first thing I'm doing is taking those stupid flames off the logo. We're just going to go with the roundel now. And we're probably going to get rid of that gay blue color. We're going to get a better blue color. I like the dark. But play him. Just play the guy. Let him play. And if you can't coach him up and get the most out of the physical tools, the Josh Allen-like physical tools that he has, why is he on your team? Play him or just stop. So, again, not much to say about this game. Both teams aren't very good. Colts are a little better. Colts won.
I would say that Jonathan Taylor's 3 touchdowns, 218 yards. Wow. Really great way to show up in fantasy football when it counts, everybody.
His career has just been wasted in Indianapolis. I'd like to see.
That's the Myles Garrett story. He's saying, if you guys can't get me competing deep into the playoffs, you know, he's never come out and really said it like that before, but he's basically saying, I'm ready for you to trade me. I'm not going through another rebuild. So figure it out, guys.
Well, the Rams would probably love to have him for 2 first-round picks. So, you know.
Well, and then for better teams, those draft picks are not as fantastic, of course, because, you know, they're competing to win it all now. So you're drafting in the 20s, and it's not, you don't get as many generational talents. Myles Garrett is a generational talent.
Yeah, but he's also been in the league, 6, 7, 8 years now. He's bound to get to the point where he's going to have a big injury, and maybe he has more value to you going forward as with draft picks than he does as a player. However, the reality is also you can't trade him because the cap hit is ridiculous. It's off scale high.
Explain how that works. Why? Because he's paid a lot. What do you mean the cap hit?
Okay, so players get contracts, and let me just go to over the cap here real quick, and I'll show you guys.
By the way, everybody, while Mike looks that up, make sure you're following this new account on X. We have one for Strictly Football. Go to TNAM Football at TNAM Football on X and link up with us. This is where we post the Strictly Football show. We drop this show once a week, and sometimes it's on Tuesdays, usually on Thursdays, but we are committed to football just like you. So that's where we are. Make sure you find
it. So how this works is, you know, the NFL salary cap is a very specific set of, let me maybe increase the size of this a little.
No, this is perfect.
Is, you know, guys sign deals. And what you can do with the deal is you give a guy a guaranteed signing bonus, which is cash right now. And that can be prorated over 4 years of the deal. So what usually happens is about year 3, you can cut the player and actually get more space under the salary cap for the next year. Now, the Browns are in a very bad position because if you look at 2024, you're under the cap by $43 million, but in 2025, you're going to be over the cap. It's in red there by $17.362 million. So if we go to 2025 and we say, who could we cut or trade? And there's a whole formula involved in this that would save us some money under the cap. And the answer is pretty much nobody. You're 17 million over the cap. I don't know how you even clear 17 million off your books because you've given out so many bad contracts. Now, this is an example of a general manager that doesn't know what he's doing. So if you were to trade Myles Garrett prior to June the 1st, and June the 1st is a cutoff, you would actually add to your salary cap and you'd be $34 million under the cap. So you can't do that. You can't trade him. Now, you can trade him with what's called a post-June 1st designation, which means the trade doesn't actually officially happen until after June 1st, but it can be made on draft day or whenever you make the trade. And if you did that, you would save almost $5 million under the cap. You're still over the cap. You still have to make some other moves, but you'd save $5 million in cap space, which you could theoretically use to go out and get another player. You can only do 2 of those June 1st designations, but you'd also get some draft picks out of Myles Garrett, who's now 30 years old. And it's maybe time to think about guys with high cap numbers because his cap number this year is $19.722 million. So that's what he's eating up out of your cap space. And this is based on an estimation of what the 2025 salary cap is going to be, which is based on all sorts of revenues. But like, you know, you can't cut or trade guys like Denzel Ward. These guys are all in the red. You could save about $5 million if you cut or traded Jack Conklin. You'd save $5 million there. And if you trade Myles, you're still $7 million over the cap. Your cap situation's a mess. And you don't have a lot of guys down here that you can save money on. So what's going to happen is deals can be restructured. And what that means is you do a simple restructure where you basically give the guy some money right now and take his salary for the future years and turn it into a signing bonus. So that can help you. But
yeah, and the Browns have been doing that. They've been kicking the can down the road with that maneuver over and over every contract. it's an avalanche of debt that's been built up by Andrew Berry, a general manager, the same guy that it's still a little cloudy who's responsible for the Deshaun Watson trade. Who had the final say? Is it Paul DePodesta, the Moneyball guy?
It's the owner. It's got to be the owner who went for that. But that contract is killing you. If you were to trade Deshaun, I mean, try to trade him even post 6-1. You're going to take a $46 million cap hit. You're going to be $63 million over the cap, and you simply can't make that up. So Deshaun would have to somehow completely redo his deal for it to have any benefit for the Browns. So you guys are stuck. You're in pretty bad shape.
Yeah, that's good to know. Larry is saying, did you know Myles Garrett is a minority owner in the Cleveland Cavaliers?
I did not know that.
Yeah, he sits courtside now. I think Usher used to be one. I think he sold, so I'd rather have Myles there. So he's kind of pot committed to Cleveland. He wants to be in Cleveland. He just fix the quarterback position and bring in some talent. Like, we got to fix this. But yeah, I mean, are we so top heavy with the rosters and the age and the injuries of Nick Chubb? And, it's just, you got to figure out what you are. And we're a 3-win team this year. So
yeah. And please, God, stay that way so the Seahawks still have a chance to go to the playoffs. Just stay a 3-win team, guys.
Let me tear through the rest of these games here and we'll make our picks. Where'd we go? There we are. All right. You mentioned the Rams. Oh, you'd love to see Myles Garrett on the Rams. Rams got this win over the Jets. What do we got?
I mean, Matthew Stafford throws for 110 yards and they win the game. The Jets are terrible. God, they're so bad. I didn't see much of this game. The Rams just pissed me off because they've won like 3 games in a row now, all of which they woulda, coulda, shoulda lost and would have helped the Seahawks a lot. And it's just really irritating. So now I got to root for the Cardinals, who just got knocked out of the playoffs and are terrible, to beat the Rams this week. I don't think it's going to happen, but we'll try.
9-6, the Rams there. Yeah, sitting there at the top of the division.
It was like a 3rd and 8, and Rodgers is back, and he's looking right at Devontae Adams, and he throws him the ball, little outside, and Devontae Adams just stands there and watches the ball go by. Was that to me? Yeah, it was to you, Devontae. What the hell are you doing? What the fuck are you even doing? He basically comes out and he stops running, and Rodgers expects him to sort of break to the outside. And so he throws the ball just 5 yards out, and Devontae Adams just stands there. What did he think it was to somebody behind him over his shoulder? It's like they are not on the same page. They are so poorly coached. It is such a mess there. And it wouldn't be any better with Robert Saleh. So it's like, God, I don't. You think the Browns got problems? The Jets got problems. So
Browns and the Jets have had problems for the better part of 30 years. I do know
the Jets could June 1st designate Aaron Rodgers and trade him to somebody that wants him. So
is Aaron is he washed? Does he have could we stabilize the Cleveland Browns franchise if we rebuild and just say we're going to put a Super Bowl caliber
retire rather than go to Cleveland? I could see him in San Francisco. If he's from there, right? He played at UCLA he wanted to go there 3 or 4 years ago, and the Packers wouldn't trade him there. And he was like, why didn't you just take the 49ers deal? They put a bunch of stuff on the table. And I'm kind of thinking he's not washed, but I think it was
if he could bring a championship to Cleveland, he would be a god amongst men.
The Jets lost a couple weeks ago, and one of the guys for the other team, God, was it the Commanders? I don't remember who they lost to. And he said, they asked him about Aaron Rodgers, and he said, he looks to me like a 41-year-old guy who doesn't want to get hit anymore.
I saw that.
And here's the thing. He's not going to get hit for the Jets and for a shitty 3-12 team or whatever they are. But if you put him in a good situation where he has a chance to win a Super Bowl, then he's going to gut it out. So he's not washed. He just needs to be – he's just only going to really – at some point in this season, he quit on the Jets. He's like, I'm just going to play not to get hurt again and see if I can come back next year and play for a contender. So that's what I mean.
When you're in tank mode, you want those draft picks anyway. Like there's unspoken tanking, and then there's soft tanking. There's hardcore tanking. I've seen it all.
I don't think Rodgers is not trying to win the game, but he's not going to put his body in the line of fire to do it. Not for the Jets, not for this team.
Well, let's talk about a team that had two quarterbacks put their bodies in the line of fire. Jalen Hurts really wrecked me in my fantasy league, and Kenny Pickett, he got dinged up too, right?
Yeah.
Commanders pulled out this win. They improved to 10-5 on the year. Washington is 2 games back of Philadelphia, who drops to 12-3. So what are the Eagles doing at quarterback now, and how good are the Commanders?
Well, I mean, I think if I remember, Hurts's injury is just a concussion, right? So he could be back theoretically this week, right? It's not anything more than that. And that really hampered the Eagles' efforts in the games. Kenny Pickett's not a great player. Jaden Daniels is the superior. And what do they have? 5 touchdown passes, Jaden? Something like that. It was insane.
5 touchdowns, 258 in the air, 2 interceptions as well. But yeah, 5 touchdown passes.
The better quarterback usually wins. The better quarterback won. The Commanders are a solid, for real team that's going to create problems for people in the playoffs. So good for them.
Absolutely. I'm okay watching them succeed. I've also become a pseudo Eagle fan just because I keep drafting players.
There's talk that they're going to go back to the RFK Stadium site and maybe build a new stadium there. And some people are saying they're going to call it Redskin Stadium. So
yeah, that was part of the transportation or part of the omnibus, the end of year spending bill, right? Yeah. Muriel Bowser was trying to get that included. Like they took it out, they put it back in. They're still finagling it. Did they ever settle on they settled on a budget, right?
Yeah, I believe so. I believe it's actually now able to go forward. So
yeah, so we'll see how that shakes out. But yeah, I would love to bring back the Cleveland Indians, the Washington Redskins, just restore some sanity. We love our sports teams. We love our traditions. We love the history. And by the way, Louis Sockalexis was the first Indian Native American player to break that barrier in Major League Baseball. The Cleveland Indians. Chief Wahoo, the coolest logo in all of sports, by the way. So
absolutely.
I would like to see that come back. You cannot look at our Chief Wahoo and not smile. He just makes people happy. Doggone it. This made me happy. The Panthers got a win, so they left the 3-win misery group that the Cleveland Browns are in. That helps our draft position. And you were happy to see this because they knocked out the Cardinals.
No, not really. Cardinals are not a threat. We beat them twice, and they're not very good. It didn't make me happy because I needed them to win so that their game on Saturday against the Rams would matter. It doesn't matter because they lost. Season is over, and I think the Rams are going to steamroll them on Saturday and make it basically impossible for the Seahawks to make the playoffs. So no, I was rooting. Long live Chief Wahoo. Yeah, I was rooting for. And by the way, Chief Wahoo makes some of the best fish tacos on the planet. Just so you know. So I was disappointed. I think the story in this game that's exciting is Bryce Young. Now, I held out some hope that the Panthers were going to give up on Bryce Young and draft Cam Ward or somebody else if they had the number 1 pick again. That's not happening. Bryce Young is staying. Now I feel sad because I wanted somebody to be dumb enough to give up on Bryce Young after a year and a half, but he's starting to look like an NFL quarterback. And again, some quarterbacks like Jaden Daniels, Russ Wilson, they hit right away. You know right away there's greatness in them. Other guys, it takes 3 or 4 years. Bryce is going to be one of those guys. And I think the Panthers are going to have a pretty good quarterback there in a couple years. So good for them.
Let's talk about Jaguars, Raiders, toilet bowl, 2, 3, and 12 teams.
God, 2 awful teams. Raiders shot themselves not in the foot. They shot themselves in the balls because they had the number 1 pick locked up and they went out and won this game. If I'm Al Davis, I'm going through and I'm picking all my best players and I'm going to go, you're injured. You're injured. You're injured. All 5 of you guys are inactive because you're injured today. You're not playing. And I'm tanking this game so I can get Shedeur Sanders. Now they've blown that. Shedeur Sanders in New York, God, for the Giants, God, awful. So,
well, you know what a lot of people are saying. I've had to put energy and attention into this specific topic over the past couple of weeks because really the Browns are in the position to make a move, and we're trying to figure out QB. It's boiling to the surface. Myles Garrett talking about it, everybody. Should the teams continue to tank through next year, because you're going to get Arch Manning coming out. You're going to find other people that are maybe viewed as cornerstone franchise changing quarterbacks, versus this year, maybe they're not really grading into that range where you jump for it. Yeah. If you're swinging, if you have to swing, you'll expand your strike zone and just swing at anything, because you kind of have to. But a lot of people are saying the smart money is on tanking again next year and going after some of those top talents. So I don't know.
Next year. It's a long ways away.
It is.
The chances of getting the number one pick are pretty slim. You have to be really bad, and then you have to like tank a little bit. So good luck with that.
I've seen the Browns do that before. We had a perfect winless season and threw a parade.
And again, I think the Jaguars are not going to get a shot at a young quarterback, and so I think unfortunately Trevor Lawrence is going to stay there.
Well, he's signed for several years. It's a salary cap fiesta.
He's tradable. I've looked it up in the salary cap stuff. He's tradable. Okay. If you can trade a guy and get a net cap space savings, he's tradable.
So what makes him tradable? What terms are different compared to Watson? Again,
it was the way they structured his contract. I believe I've checked this already. Let me go to the Jaguars and then I'll share it again for 2025.
I understand the concept of like, here's a signing bonus paid up front. I totally get that. It's just some of these like finer points, it's legalese. And I haven't fully sat down and studied the exam book to fully know how to navigate a salary cap.
Okay. So here is the Jaguars 2025 salary cap situation. And if you look down there, their third highest paid player, or their highest paid $17 million cap hit, is Trevor Lawrence. He's in the second year of his deal. If you cut him, it's $116 million against your cap. You're 46 under, you'd suddenly go to 60 million some over. That's impossible. You can't be over the cap. You're screwed. So if you go to, okay, well, we're not going to cut him. What if we're going to trade him before 6-1? It's only a $13 million cap. Did I have that right? Did I say 116 million or did I mean 16 million? No, it says 116. Okay. If you trade him, it's a $13 million cap hit. Now, if you do that, if you traded him before June 1, then you still have $33 million. So you lose cap space, but you still have $33 million to spend on other players. Again, if you undo that, if you do him as a post June 1st cap hit cut, which means it's prorated over 2 years, then you actually save $9 million in cap space. So they could trade Trevor Lawrence to some team that needs a quarterback, like I don't know, Seahawks, and actually save money under the cap if they did it as a post June 1st designation. But then they would have to go out and get another quarterback. So that's how this works. It just simply works because, and I don't know all the machinations and details of the contracts, but it's the way they worked the contract. It's the way they built his contract, as opposed to the ridiculous contract that the Cleveland Browns gave to Deshaun Watson. And I think
it's not just about that contract. It's about every contract is backloaded to be penalized later. It's the Washington kick the can down the road. We'll deal with the debt and the deficit later. I'll be out of office by then. Make it someone else's problem. And it's like someday it becomes your problem. You go, I'll just put it on the credit card. One day you actually have to pay that.
The way to play the salary cap game is to make sure that every deal you can get out of by the third year with some sort of net cap savings. And it's not that difficult. And teams that don't do it, like the Browns, have really screwed themselves. I mean, if I bought the Browns and I went in and I looked at this, I'd be like, who's the general manager? You? Okay, you're fired. Because it's a ridiculous situation to be in. Because you're hamstrung. You can't go get new players.
Well, we were supposed to be competing for championships. We were in the window of prime. Baker Mayfield, Myles Garrett, Nick Chubb. I mean, we brought in Odell and Jarvis to be solid receivers. Like, just things didn't click long enough. We switched to Eddie Kitchens and Greg Williams, and
you didn't have to make the Deshaun Watson mistake, and you should have said to Deshaun Watson, "Okay, fine, we'll guarantee you this much, but year 3 we have an option to drop it."
Yeah, but they were desperate. They burned their bridges with Baker at that point, and
they didn't do it. So
it got ugly fast, and I just hate that I have to go through this. I don't deserve this as a fan. I don't deserve this.
As an example, let's just real quickly look at the Seahawks 2025 salary cap situation.
Well, and let's parlay that. We'll switch instead of talking about the Niners. Let's talk about your team in the game.
Okay. And you go to 2025 and you look at basically every guy that they've got signed that's near 30 and overpaid can be cut. 2025, there's $6 million over the cap right now as of today. Well, guess what? Geno Smith, if you cut him, you save $25 million under the cap. Okay, I'm going to go find another quarterback. Now I've gone from $6 million over the cap to 19 million under the cap. Tyler Lockett, you're old. You're not good anymore. I'm cutting you. Draymond Jones, you're okay, but your cap number is $25.65 million for Draymond Jones. Do you even know who Draymond Jones is? Brian, do you know who Draymond Jones is?
No, Draymond Green, but no.
You're most Seahawks fans, so he's cut. Leonard Williams, terrific season. Terrific season. You should try to trade him. Hang on. You can then Uchenna Nwosu, again, overpaid, $21 million cap hit, cap savings of $8.4 million. You're gone. Noah Fant, worthless tight end. I can save $9 million by cutting him. I cut him. Julian Love, I like. Charles Cross, I like. Rayshon Jenkins, not a bad player, but for $5.4 million, I can find another safety to start. I'm cutting you. The other Fant, George Fant. Okay, you've played 17 snaps this year, 30 snaps this year. Injured again, $3.8 million savings. You are gone. I've still got quite a few core players, and I can then still, if I want to, I could trade DK. I could trade DK Metcalf and save another $10 million, and then I can probably trade Leonard Williams, even for a 4th or 5th round pick. And although Leonard's been good, now I have a lot of roster slots to fill, but I now have $97 million in cap space and a couple more draft picks to build my team with. And I'm starting with a quarterback. That's how I do it. So, yeah, that's how I'm doing it.
All right. Yeah, Larry is saying, man, this salary stuff.
Because none of those guys, none of those guys are worth what their cap numbers are or what I'm going to actually have to pay them. They're good players, a lot of them, but they're not good enough to be paying that kind of money. So,
Marco jumping in, just saying, let's go Bears. Lose the rest of the years. Let's lose the rest of the games, and let's get a top 5 pick. And it needs to be a lineman. It'd be cool if the Bears trade down and get extra picks and get 3 linemen in the 1st and 2nd round. Yeah, I mean, look, when you got a deficit, the Browns are in the same spot. Some of their guys have aged kind of poorly. They've had injuries. Jed Wills, we had a chance to draft an anchor left tackle, and we didn't. We missed with Jed Wills. We got to start over again at left tackle. That's something you can't get wrong.
No.
So yeah, I hear you on having your frustrations with your offensive line. But let's take your Seattle salary situation and talk about your game. Close contest against the Vikings. Vikings end up getting the win, improving to 13-2 on the year, and you guys fall to 8-7.
I was just trying to give you an example of how much better situated the Seahawks are under the cap than the Browns are. So you want to set your deals up so that you're not,
never go full Browns, just like Robert or what is that? Tropic Thunder. Never go full Browns. Never go full Cleveland Browns. Don't do what we do.
Right.
Ever. So what do we learn in this Vikings game? Vikings just keep getting wins, and
we learned what I already knew, what I've been telling people for 3 years. Geno Smith isn't good enough. At the key point in the games, he's going to make a mistake. He's going to throw the terrible interception, and he did. I think he had 3 interceptions in this game again, all devastating, all terrible. None of them, excusable. And then he makes some great plays. He makes the occasional great throw. So it's a situation where you just you just aren't good enough at the quarterback position. And then Sam Darnold comes in, and frankly, Darnold is a lot better than Geno, and he's 27. And some people say, well, Geno's just as good as him. Well, no, he really isn't. He really isn't better than Geno's really not as good as Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold is really good and played really well, and he made some terrific throws. I don't know what's going on. I can't control Brian's screen there, but we're going through some advertisements. But, again, this is a situation. It was a game the Seahawks would have, could have, should have won. If Russell Wilson was still a quarterback, they would have won the game. But then Geno makes this throw here. It's a throw into triple coverage. You can't make a throw into triple coverage. At the end of the game, they had a chance to go down and tie or win the game, and Geno throws an interception on the first play. He doesn't handle pressure well. And again, look at bracketed. I mean, DK is absolutely bracketed. And then the thing that's so appalling about this is that on Seahawks Twitter, there's actually people trying to say this is DK Metcalf's fault. Oh, he ran a lazy route, and I'm like, what the fuck are you even talking about? So the Seahawks were in control of their own destiny. They didn't beat the Packers. They got boat raced by the Packers. They got beat by the Vikings. They should have won this game. They had the Vikings on a short week. There's a lot of complaints about Ryan Grubb, the offensive coordinator. Oh, he doesn't run the ball. He doesn't run the ball. That's why the Seahawks are losing. He doesn't run the ball because they really weren't making any yardage on the ground. And at the end of the game, the fourth quarter, they started running the ball. I'm like, okay, now we're getting something on the ground. We're starting to push these guys back because guess what? It's a short week. Win on Monday, lose on Sunday. There's that old adage in the NFL. And they had them right where they wanted them. But then Geno throws another pick and fumbles the ball, turns it over, and the Vikings get the lead. And then we have to chase the game, and we have to throw the ball the rest of the game. So,
Mike, Larry says that looked like a Jameis Winston throw.
It does, and that's the thing. Geno is better than Jameis at his best. Jameis at his best, Geno at his best. Geno is the superior. But
let me just give a shout out here to some of the reasons why I lost my fantasy championship. Players that underperformed. Boo to Aaron Jones, 18 carries, 67 yards. Kenneth Walker, 8 carries, 31 yards. Justin Jefferson gave us 144 yards and 2 touchdowns, which I appreciated in one of my leagues. But yeah, Aaron Jones, Kenneth Walker, my running backs, it is hard to get running back. And my problem was I had Jerome Ford on the bench. Jerome Ford got me 24 points on the bench. I went with Jerry Jeudy in that flex position. Jeudy got me 4 because DTR couldn't throw the damn ball. So, it's just this time of year, you're either hoping for your real team to be in the playoffs or your fantasy football team. And I just got almost knocked down completely. Thank God I had my Buckeyes to give me something to be excited about.
Justin Jefferson should not have had a game that big. There were a couple times he made, big yardage gains on plays where nobody was covering him. Like, how do you not cover Justin Jefferson? Like, with nobody. And so they had breakdowns. There's a guy, Tariq Woolen. People are saying he was out of the nightclub on Saturday night instead of resting and getting ready for the game. He got torched a couple times. He was in completely the wrong position on one of the touchdowns. And, again, the Vikings are better coached than the Seahawks. That doesn't mean the coaching is the only reason the Seahawks lost that game, but it was very frustrating. And, again, why do I want to be in the playoffs? Just to get knocked out in the first round? Well, I don't know, but I do. It's what you root for.
I know. I keep watching my team. It's Schrodinger's football game. I win if we lose because I get a better draft pick, and I win if we win because I like winning. And it's like, I don't know, just whatever you're doing, kind of go all one direction. You stay balanced in the middle at 8-7, 7-8. It's just you're in purgatory. You're in football purgatory at that stage.
I think it would be fun if we could go to that last game against the Rams with a chance to win the division, and I could go to LA and go to the game.
Because all you got to do is get hot, get a couple of good wins at the right time of year. You never know who can win. The ball bounces one way, it goes off the upright. Somebody slips. You just never know. That's why you play the games. So
on the other hand, with my Seahawks videos, I had all kinds of people in Seahawks Twitter ripping my balls off, before the season started when I told him what this team was and what the problems were, and nobody believed me, and here I am. I get to be right again. I don't want to be right, but I'm right. And, so there's that satisfaction of, yeah, I saw this coming. Why didn't you guys see this coming?
Well, the 49ers didn't see this coming. This season has turned out to crap for them. Good for you. They lose to the Dolphins.
Yeah.
What do we? I mean, the Dolphins are still in the hunt. Are they still technically?
No. Well, I don't think the Dolphins are still in the hunt. I think they're eliminated.
They have not been eliminated yet at 7-8. They're with the Colts at 7-8. Then you got the Seahawks, Bucks, Falcons, all with 8 wins, and then the Broncos, Chargers, Texans, Rams with 9. So they're on the cusp.
49ers were eliminated right before kickoff. They knew that. Air came out of the sails, and that was just a flat game where and people want to rip apart Brock Purdy. As I've said, if you do not want him, I will take him in Seattle over Geno Smith. So you go right ahead and go trade for Aaron Rodgers, and then Brock, come on up to Seattle, and we'll see what you do with some good receivers around, right? Like you used to have.
Yeah. Well, it's you can't win them all, but there's been a lot of great recent 49er teams that haven't won it all. It's kind of becoming a little Buffalo Billy, it kind of seems like. But yeah, you never know when your window is going to open, who gets injured and who can't come back, and you trade all your draft capital for Trey Lance and Christian McCaffrey. And it's like, well, what do you got at the end of that? And at some point you have to restock your cabinets. And you look at a team like the Steelers, they just kind of consistently grind out playoff teams, and sometimes they win a couple of championships per decade or two. And it's like, I don't know, there's ways to do it, and I haven't figured that out as a Browns fan myself. New Orleans Saints recently got a championship, of course, I mean, in the past 20 years, and the Packers are consistently competitive. Saints, man, your boy Spencer Rattler just not looking great. They get shut out 34-0 by the Packers.
They're a terrible team with nothing to play for. I'm not judging Rattler on that. I believe in his talent. It's clearly there. He just needs experience. So,
Mike, are you keeping your tickets for the Rams game?
Not if the Seahawks aren't in contention to win the division. No. If that game's not for the division championship, I'm not going. So I'll be happy to sell them to anybody who wants them.
All right. And Marco was saying he thinks the Bears division with the Packers will be the best one next year. I mean, it's hard to argue.
It depends. The Vikings now have a decision to make. Do we keep and pay Sam Darnold, who's played so well for us, or do we trade J.J. McCarthy, who was going to be our quarterback and now isn't?
No, pay Sam Darnold. Try not to make it the largest contract in NFL history and be like, bro, you're still Sam Darnold. But can we give you a couple $100 million with a team friendly? Maybe we can cut, set it up in a way that's beneficial, guaranteed. Like you have success, you're comfortable here. We have talented wide receivers here. Let's just keep doing this. But please don't make us break the bank. I think that's where Baker wanted 10 more million a year. And they're like, we can do it for this. We're in for a reasonable, we got other pieces. And he's like, no, I'm this. And that's where that difference made the difference between Darnold stays, Darnold goes, Baker stays, Baker goes. I think it was the difference between Mahomes' money and just here's nice journeyman settled in a nice location. Here's a 4 or 5 year, 3-4 year guarantee contract that makes sense for both of us. I would keep Darnold. Why mess with it? I don't know. He gets the wins. He's playing well. Yep.
Merry Christmas Eve, Jennifer. Jen. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to everybody.
Yeah, I would keep Darnold too. I would keep him. And
so we'll see if they're smart enough to do that then.
No.
No. Okay, well, that wraps up the games we had from last week. Mike, do you want to pull up your betting board on Game Picker? Not sponsored by them yet, but we could be. Who knows?
Not sponsored by anybody, but yeah, here is let's go back to last week. Brian, I was 12-4 again, another winning week for me. Every week is a winning week. I beat you again. We've had one draw. One week we were both 8-8. I've beaten you every other week. I don't know how I'm doing it. 164-76 on the season. Should have put $20 on every single game that I picked. All right. That was a pretty good week for me. Now we slide over into week 17. Only 2 weeks left in this. Oh, God, come on. Yeah, remember me, dumbass.
Yeah, I know. It always logs me out, and I gotta re-sign in.
I gotta log back in. So let's go to week 17. Pick straight up. All right, Kansas City at Pittsburgh. Look, Pittsburgh needs this win. They're getting George Pickens back. Kansas City is due for a loss. Unless the refs intervene once again, I think the Steelers are gonna come away with a win. And by the way, Pittsburgh fans, get a logo on both sides of your helmet, okay? Ravens, Texans. God, this is a tough one to call because the Texans need to win, but without Tank Dell, that gruesome injury, I don't know if they're going to be enough to beat the Ravens. I favor the Ravens. I think the Ravens win on the road. Seattle at Chicago. I'm going to take my Seahawks. They have to win. They better win. I think they go in on Thursday and win that game. The Saturday game, Los Angeles and New England. I'm taking the Chargers. They're the better team. They need the win to get locked into the playoffs, so I pick them. Broncos at Bengals. Tough game. The Bengals have played pretty well lately. They got Joe Burrow, but Joe Burrow's kind of a woke douchebag, so I'm going to go with Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos on the road. Rams, Cardinals. Rams are going to win. I'm going to pick the Cardinals purely to give them some hopeful energy to find a way to play a good game and win the game. Tampa, Carolina. Carolina's the better team. Tampa's the better team. They got to have the win at home. They're going to get it. Cowboys, Eagles. Eagles are going to beat the Cowboys. Cowboys played better last week. But then, is Mike McCarthy going to stay the coach? I think he is. Giants, Colts. Colts win this game. A replay of the 1958 NFL championship game that went into overtime. And who was it? Marion Motley scored the winning touch? I don't remember. But Colts still in the hunt, need the win. Beat the Giants. Anthony Richardson continues to develop. The Giants pretty close to locking up the first overall selection. Vegas, New Orleans, two bad teams. I'm going to take New Orleans. I'm going to hope that Rattler plays better. Jets, Buffalo all the way. Tennessee, Jacksonville, crummy game of the week. It depends. I can't pick Jacksonville with Mac Jones as the quarterback. So if Trevor Lawrence isn't playing, I'm taking Tennessee. Miami, Cleveland. I need Cleveland. I would pick. I'm going to take Miami because they're better, and I need Cleveland to continue to lose. So the strength of schedule thing is still alive for the Seahawks. Vikings, Packers. Vikings are better. They're at home. They're going to win. Redskins, Falcons. I like Penix, but I think it's a pretty big ask on the road to go win that game. Lions, 49ers. 49ers will try to put up a fight, but the Lions will win it to clinch, I believe. I believe that clinches the home field advantage for them, but I'm not positive. So that's my picks. That's what I'm thinking.
All right. And let me pull up mine. Where's the share this tab instead? Are we pulled up here? There we go. Perfect. Last week, let me go to that other screen. So I was 9-7. I've improved to 121 and 119 on the air. Barely above 500.
Sure. 500.
It's like flipping a coin. It's fairly similar odds. Roughly 50-50. They call me Even Steven. So let's go to week 17. I'm going to make the best picks of the year. Mark my words. All right. Kansas City, Pittsburgh. I'm going Kansas City. Kansas City just keeps finding ways to win. I'm not super sold on Schittsburg. Houston, Baltimore. I think Houston is going to find a way. I just think they're going to. I do. I think they're due for it. I was at a Browns game and I watched the Ravens get beat by the Browns this year. They are beatable, but when they're on, they're on. I think they're going to rally. Seattle at Chicago. Going Seattle. Seattle is the better team. Going Chargers because New England cannot find a way to win these close games. Young quarterback play will do that to you. Denver at Cincinnati. I'm going to go with Cincinnati. Cincinnati has something to play for. They are on the edge, on the outside looking in. and they think that they are better than this. They got a top-rated passer, a top-rated wide receiver, and they just can't understand why their record is 7-8. It's the one-score games that have been getting them, and I think they're going to get it done, especially watching Denver collapse last week. Arizona, Los Angeles. Los Angeles is the better coach team, and that stuff matters this time of year. Of course, now the Cardinals have less to care about. Carolina, Tampa Bay. That's going to be Tampa Bay winning this one. They're going to need it because I think the Falcons are going to win this week as well. Dallas at Philly. Look, Dallas is playing better, and Philadelphia looked mortal with their quarterback issues. I'm going to go with Dallas in this one.
Okay.
In New York, I'm going to say New York gets this one. I don't know why. No apparent reason other than wishful thinking, trying to get that number 1 pick from me for the Cleveland Browns. Vegas at New Orleans. Goodness. Gonna go Raiders because, geez, I don't know. I think Raiders are the better team at this stage of the season. I think they're just so injured. The Saints are. If you talk to me the first month of the season, yeah, the Saints were playing great at the beginning of the year, but we ain't there anymore. Bills are going to win this one at home. Although I've seen some things that concern me out of the Bills the past couple weeks.
Yeah, but not really enough to lose to the Jets. I don't know.
Yeah, I know. The Jets have several problems going on there. It's not just one thing. Tennessee, Jacksonville. God, there's another gem. I'm gonna go with the Jaguars winning this one. Miami, Cleveland. I think Miami's going to get this one. No, I don't. The Browns are a Jekyll and Hyde kind of team. They can play well sometimes. Wait, are they doing Dorian Thompson-Robinson again?
Probably.
My pick depends on who they start at quarterback.
I hope so. I hope they are.
Because I think they're going to do DTR at quarterback, I'm going to pick the Dolphins. I had to swing that. It's based on quarterback. Green Bay, Minnesota. Minnesota's going to get this win, but I would not be surprised if Green Bay gets the win. Atlanta, Washington. I like Washington in this game, and I hope this happens because I want the Buccaneers to win this division. Detroit at San Francisco. Detroit is going to win. Those are my picks this Christmas week. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Yeah, Merry Christmas to everyone. Have a great one, Jen and everybody out there. And it's fun. One more week to go in the regular season. So we'll see what happens.
And of course, the college football playoffs for the first time ever. You know, it's just it brings a new excitement.
This is a huge football week, and it'll be fun. It'll be loads of fun.
Good luck to any of you who are going to be in your fantasy football championship rounds. I was sadly eliminated in both my dynasty leagues. Back to the drawing board. Time to save some draft capital.
When I get Jim's betting tips, I will forward them out on seahawkboymikeb on Twitter X, and also over to Strictly Football on Twitter X. So
at TNAM Football, please follow that. By the way, final thing here, Joe Evans chiming in. My favorite memory playing football was rushing the quarterback and making 5 sacks in one game. You were like an Al Bundy on defense.
Wow.
The defensive captain kept calling his favorite defense called Monster Joe. Monster Joe. That's awesome. Yeah, football is a glorious sport. Thank you for sharing that story. And in the comments section, like when you find this show on Rumble and YouTube, type your favorite sports memory. The questions of the day are meant to get engagement as the show lives on. So thank you for joining, everybody. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year, everybody. We'll be back when the schedule allows. Maybe we'll pencil in Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern, back to regular next week. I don't know. We'll see how it plays out, but sometime next week. Appreciate you. Love you. We'll talk to you again soon. Take care. Peace.
Go Hawks.